So does,
He's on there.
Trust me, that's
teleworking.
we're not recording yet.
Recording in progress.
There we go. Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone to our October 25th, 2022 Spokane County Board of Commissioners agenda meeting for 2 o'clock today. Please let the record reflect that all 3 commissioners are present and our executive management team. I'm going to start off by letting you know that we have received 8 written comments for item number 2Q as presented on today's agenda. We will start off with an open public forum that is for anything that is not on our agenda today. So that's for any items that are not on our agenda today. And so I'll open up that open public forum. See no one in the audience?
No one on Zoom.
One on Zoom?
No one.
No one on Zoom. Okay. Second call for anyone wishing to come down for the open public forum. See no one. Third and final call for anyone wishing to come down and speak on the open public forum.
No one.
Okay, no one on Zoom, and I don't see anyone in the audience. So then that was the third and final call. So I will close the open public forum, and we will look to our consent agenda items. We are going to have Sheriff Ozzie Knezevich come down and speak to item number 2Q before we take that vote. Welcome, Sheriff. You've been all over today.
Commissioners, based on the briefing that I provided yesterday to the board and the fact that the City of Spokane has requested the EOC to be stood up in order to deal with an issue that is truly an emergency for our community, which is the camp that has been designated Camp Hope. This particular camp provides an opportunity for the criminal element to sell fentanyl to our community. There are guns in that camp, and if you're a business in that surrounding area and you've all had the chance to talk with them, just as I have, if you're a business in that area, you are at the point of closing your doors. There are businesses that have been notified by their insurance providers that if they turn in another claim, they will lose their insurance. So every loss that they have henceforth is coming out of their pockets. We have Fred Meyer, which is struggling. And should Fred Meyer leave that area, that leaves a very marginalized community, the East Central District, without a walking distance grocery store. You have Libby Elementary. I have talked to several parents. I have talked to teachers, and what they describe there is fear. I don't have young children anymore, but I can tell you if I did, there's no way I'd want one of my children going to Libby Elementary right now because of the threat posed by that camp. And the fear that these folks live in is palatable when you talk to them. I have talked to the residents that live in those neighborhoods. I talked to a young family that wants out of that neighborhood, but due to interest rates, house prices, and the fact that they live basically with that in their front yard, their housing prices and the value of their home has collapsed. When you have such a dynamic of that on top of the public health concerns that we're now facing, we have to do something to bring this to an end. By declaring the emergency, by standing up the EOC gives us the opportunity and the means to quickly operationalize all resources in Spokane County to bring this to a closure. You know that I've worked very diligently in the last 10 days behind the scenes with many good individuals in our community trying to bring the state to the table. Those efforts collapsed yesterday when the state very bluntly said they will not come to the table. I'm tired of the finger pointing on this issue. The state makes a contention that because we won't drop our abatement, they can't speak to us. Well, we all know that that's not true. We all know that these type of actions get resolved in mediation all the time. They can come to the table. They can speak to us. And we don't have to go to court if we could just get them to the table, have them join the efforts that are now magnified by the abilities that we have brought to bear with the EOC being stood up, being able to purchase things quickly, being able to move forward quickly. And one of the most upsetting parts of this is Zeke Smith and I had a great conversation. Zeke agreed that he could work towards a December 1st resolution. And we have another 120 beds coming on board December 1st. All we needed was the state to come on board. And they have refused. That, to me, I can't even address the frustration that all of those who worked on that effort for the last 10 days feel based on the state not following through with some tacit commitments that we thought we had. With that said, in order for us to bring this to resolution, in order for us to take the people, and today in the press conference I called them trapped, and they are, because they're living under a false impression that there are tiny pallet homes coming to them if they just hold out. Well, that's not going to happen. And that's a false information and a false hope that's being built in their hearts. We need to help them transition from that crime-infested area, which we know has human waste in the soil. We have videos of, RVs being dumped in the neighborhood. My team pulled a gun off of somebody 2 nights ago around that camp. We are taking and stepping up our enforcement actions to protect the community. It is time for this to be resolved. We have the power in this community to do so. We have the will in this community to do so. And we have the ability to provide better for those inside the camp, to transition them into a shelter which is far superior, which is cleaner, and most importantly, crime-free. They don't have to worry about being assaulted. We have heard of rapes that are going on in that camp. We can provide a better and safer alternative. So with that, I am requesting that you sign the resolution formalizing the emergency, and if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Evan, Sheriff, with the information that's out there right now, what's your best guess on how many people are there? I mean, I know we heard numbers at one point as high as 650. I don't believe those numbers. I don't think it was probably ever that high. I think they're now reporting 450-ish. Do you think that's accurate? Do you think it's less? I mean,
It truly, Commissioner, is a moving target depending on what time frame that you want to talk about. They are now stating that they have issued IDs to 443 people. what we know, because we do have people watching the camp, we do have CIs going into the camp, and we have drone coverage that we are ramping up around the camp. We know that the population of the camp during the daytime is higher because people go to the camp to get services, get free stuff, but they will not stay there at night because, to quote them, it's unsafe. So the daytime population and the nighttime population are two different things. The intelligence that we are developing, the, if you will, the stay at Camp Hope population is estimated to be about 250, maybe max 300, maybe. But it's more in the line of those who are staying the night around the 250 mark from what we are seeing and what we're counting. So you have a really kind of quagmire of, okay, in the daytime, there may be 43 people that they've tagged so they can get free stuff in the camp during the day. But at night, that number does shift.
So, Sheriff, just a couple comments. One, thank you for your leadership in this area, and I'm not only grateful that that you stepped forward, but I'm also grateful that the three of us united stand with you in terms of trying to address this issue. As I talk to folks out in the community, and been doing it for several months now, there is a sense of exhaustion while they try and wait for somebody to do something. And so that's the county stepping forward to do something. It's unfortunate that we have folks that like to engage in criminal activities hiding behind innocence. And you and I both know what that looks like in other kind of situations where those that want to do harm use the innocents to protect them. But in this situation, they're not just innocents, they're also victims. And they're victims of the kind of activity that you've described, the kind of activity that we know is going on there. And as a community, this is not who we are. This is not what's acceptable. And so I appreciate all of your efforts in terms of reaching out to make sure that those that are vulnerable and looking for help will get it. And that's the compassion that not only you have, but that we share with you for those that are in this situation, but also that those that want to inflict harm will have a day of accountability, and they will be held accountable for their actions. And that has to happen if we're going to maintain law and order in this community. And so just thank you for your efforts. And thank you to my fellow commissioners for the leadership that you're displaying to be able to make sure that this community can be better than what we're seeing at Camp Hope. So thank you.
So we were at the press conference earlier, Sheriff, and I will say similar comments to I said then that, some of the questions people ask for why now, because the weather is turning. As anyone was out last weekend on Friday, it was cold, rainy, windy. That's not compassion. We've got an opportunity to provide a safe, warm place that they can get 3 meals a day, they can get the services they need, and be looking forward to what that future housing is going to be. I mean, that is not, I know that's part of what the state is looking at. I think that's still part of what, as we look at, calling this more of a navigation point, that's what everyone is wanting to do. So this is not something that, I think there's some thoughts as to why now. That's the why now. because they're not going to get housing any sooner on that property than they're going to with a roof over their head. So that's an important piece to me. And we had to look at the compassion for the people that are there and the compassion for the people that live around it. And so I thank you for your leadership, just as Commissioner French said, that's the leadership that, as you know, as a strong leader, decisions aren't always popular. But I truly think everyone understands that the compassion is to have these people be safe, have them be warm, and have them be sheltered. Whatever that housing opportunity is going to be in the future is still going to be there. But it's going to be there in the same time frame if they would have stayed on that property or not. And so, and safety is a consideration for the neighborhood as well as the people that live there. So I'm just thankful that you took it upon yourself to do this, and that, yes, we all are here to support you.
Thank you. Commissioners, a lot of people use the word compassion, especially in favor of Camp Hope. I don't see where there's any compassion in what's going on at Camp Hope. Some of the same people that ask questions about why now are some of the same news outlets that ran headlines that people are being branded, raped, and beaten in that camp. And if they can't understand the why now, it's because of those type of activities on top of it's snowing in the mountains. It's not going to be long before it's snowing here. And you cannot run the risk of somebody dying due to exposure because of somebody else's political will. This has to come to an end for the compassionate humanitarian reason of taking people out of that type of environment, that squalor, and putting them and giving them the opportunity to improve their lives in a safe, warm area that is free from what the elements and the criminal element that, as Commissioner French stated, is hiding behind these people. So thank you for taking this on along with me, and that's all I really have.
Thank you. Any other comments for the sheriff? Okay, then I will look to my fellow commissioners.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I would move that we approve consent agenda items 2A through 2Q as presented on today's agenda.
I will second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve items 2A through 2Q as presented on today's agenda. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We do not have any public hearing items scheduled for today. Mr. Simmons, is there anything else that we'll be doing today?
Nothing else, Commissioner.
Okay. Thank you. Then that will conclude our 2 o'clock meeting, and we are done. We will sign some paperwork and see you all next week. Thank you.